Well, welcome back to the briefing room. One of the things that we love about this podcast is experiencing and exploring leadership from completely different lenses, because leadership's not confined to boardrooms, executive teams, or traditional management roles. Some of the most powerful leadership lessons come from the places we often overlook. Today, we're joined by Jeremy Hartshorn, who serves with Alice Cooper's Solid Rock Teen Centers, an organization committed to helping young people discover and develop their gifts through music, creativity, and artistic expression. What makes this conversation so interesting is that music naturally demands many of the same qualities great leadership requires: trust, communication, discipline, adaptability, and learning how to work in harmony with others toward a shared outcome. Jeremy has spent years investing in creativity, mentorship, and helping develop the next generation of talent, which gives us a unique opportunity to explore what leadership through music can teach all of us, regardless of the industry that we lead. So today we're going to dive into those lessons learned from performance, teamwork, and mentorship, and what that means. So Jeremy, we are so excited to have you today. Welcome to the briefing room.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, I love that every guest we have has really just been an introduction from somebody else. Like, I met you from another speaker, actually, that's been on our podcast, and it's just been really neat getting to know you a little bit better and hearing your story. And so why don't you kick off by just telling us a little bit about your background, like music. How did you get involved? Where have you been? The places you've been?
Well, cool. Well, I was born. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
in a hospital.
No, I was kind of a late bloomer. Excuse me. I was kind of a late bloomer in my musical journey. I picked up the guitar when I was like 17. I was a senior in high school, and up to that point, I really hadn't had a marketable skill, we'll say. I wasn't the athlete. I wasn't the artist. Gotcha. You know, it was. But when I found guitar, it was kind of like, oh, I found me in many ways, and it just kind of, I locked in on that and took it with me to college. And when I got that guitar for my I think Christmas my senior year, I had no idea kind of what that would bring, but that's kind of how I got into it. And then when I got to college, I realized that there was like a whole tribe of musicians, and kind of found my people. And one thing led to another, and, joined bands. And it was a Christian school that I was attending in Southern California. And worship was a big part of what was going on there. And I was always drawn to that. I wanted to be a part of that. And got into writing songs, and things just kind of escalated from there. Eventually found myself leading worship. Sometimes songs even that I had written, that kind of led into teaching. Somebody said, hey, I'll give you $20 if you show me how to do that. And I tried it out, and next thing you know, then that's
you
growing.
have that marketable skill.
Yeah, there's that. It was actually a marketable skill. I'm like, whoa, this is pretty crazy. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And, just kind of fast forward to now, and now I'm working with teenagers, teaching them to play, and working with my team, teaching them how to teach people, and it's just been a really cool journey, and it just kind of goes all the way back to just like learning that first couple of chords on the guitar that my friend taught me.
Did your parents give it to you? You said it was a Christmas gift.
Yes, it was a Christmas gift, I think, from Mom. Yeah.
Okay.
My senior year of high school, so that would have been 1992.
That's kind of, I feel like we teach, if we're going to give it to our kids, it's middle school or something. So I'm kind of really impressed it was in high school.
Yeah, like I said, I was a little bit of a late bloomer.
Yeah.
I kind of grew up bouncing around on the mission field, and I don't know, I just didn't really encounter anybody who played. I encountered a lot of music lovers. I kind of think I fell in love with music, rock in particular, during my a couple of years that I was a missionary kid in Guatemala. Somebody gave me a mixtape. They're like, here you go. And there's, Alice in Chains and Metallica and those kind of bands. And I kind of got really into it, and got really enamored with that style, but it just had it just seemed like some sort of magic trick that these guys were doing to me at the time. And there wasn't really anyone to show me how to do it. And this is pre-internet, right? So you couldn't just go on YouTube and learn like kids can these days.
I love that imagery. It was like a magic trick.
It was like 80s, 90s rock. Come on, that was like the era.
It was
like,
magic.
And
come on.
I kind of like some of the bands that like my friends they weren't super into. I was kind of into sort of like hair metal, bands like Winger and Extremes, but they basically all the bands that got made fun of on Beavis and Butthead. Like that was me. Like I was the guy that was getting picked on
Yeah.
by Beavis and
And
Butthead.
you were
Yeah.
watching. You saw the good side because your parents probably let you hear it on the radio. You didn't get to watch MTV and see the bad videos of the rock age. So that was good.
Funny, oddly enough, if we back up even further,
Yeah.
I think the first time I became even aware of rock was during like Satanic Panic,
Oh.
where I was at this little Christian school and somebody came along to warn us about the dangers of rock and roll. And they told us all these horrible things about rock and roll, and then that's when I got really interested.
Never even
Wow.
heard of that. I didn't.
It,
That was
it
a
backfired
movement?
spectacularly.
Oh man.
Yeah, you don't remember that, like kind of
Maybe I
Tipper
didn't
Gore
grow through
going
that.
after
Maybe I
all
didn't know
that.
it had a name. I don't know.
Yeah, the
But-
80s bands. Yeah.
I love the question about the guitar. Like, you didn't ask for it. Mom just got it for you. Were they music people? Were they like on the production at church? Like, what? Nothing drove
Like
that.
we have to kind of know
Yeah.
where
I
this
think
came from.
so I
Or she put a note in here.
now
This
you're
is
making me
your
really
chance.
dig
Yeah.
into the vault. Yeah. I
Sorry
think what
about
had
that.
happened was that a friend of mine had got a guitar and started playing.
Ah.
I began to show interest, and I was like,
Picked up the
I
signals,
think I
yeah.
borrowed a guitar or something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, okay.
And then I think mom just got, like the stars in her eyes.
Yeah.
Like, my son's going to be a star, and so I better get him his guitar. So
Thank
thanks,
you, Mom.
Yeah.
Yes. Good job,
Okay.
Mom.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's
cool.
awesome. So, man, where did you go to school? I know you mentioned college.
Yeah, in college, so I went to Vanguard University.
Okay,
At the time, it was Southern California College. They were the Southern California. It was the Southern California College Vanguards,
Okay, I didn't
and
know
then they
changed
decided
their
to
name.
change the name to Vanguard University. So then they were the Vanguard Vanguards, and they're like, we better fix it. I think they settled on the Lions. They let us vote, and it was a bad idea. We were going to be like the sea slugs or something. Like everybody was just writing in the
let's
worst
do
possible
something
things
funny.
that they could do.
Yeah.
They just went with Lions. It's a good, safe Christian
Yeah.
college.
Thank you.
mascot.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Daniel's Lions, right? Let's go.
The Vanguard Lions. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the interesting about church or even a Christian college is they'll give you a chance to do anything. Like come serve in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a safe way to go explore using a guitar or trying to sing or trying to songwrite. And so I kind of love where you work now because you guys
Yeah.
give stages to young people to come and showcase this is what I've been working on, this is what I'm learning. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just doing my dream job at this point. It's so fun. We've got an incredible facility that is there because people have been really generous. And, Alice and all his friends, his Rolodex, they come out, they play shows and help us raise funds. And that's allowed us to provide this space. In Goodyear, it's 11,000 square foot space. And we've got the stage, as you mentioned. And that stage is probably per capita hosted more first-time performances than any stage I can think of. And that's what we're all about, is just trying to really get kids up there. One of the things I say to them all the time is, hey, kids, this is the place where you spread your wings and flap.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to say fly, but flight is never guaranteed.
Right.
But flapping is a prerequisite. And we just sort of try to encourage them, like, just get up there and go for it. Like, that's winning. Winning here is just you tried.
Yeah.
And so, people clap loud for the kids that do really well, and they clap even louder for the ones that struggle. And just that's the atmosphere we're trying to create there.
Love that.
It's always interesting to me, like where you're like, you find something you really love, whatever it is, sports, business, you love it. And then you get the flip side, you want to now teach it to other people. Like, can you talk about finding something that was you love so much that you wanted other people to feel that same thing?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just starting off, it was just me. I feel like my music really took off my freshman year of college, almost like day one, because there was other guys with their guitars. We were sitting in the lobby of these dorms. There was a men's tower and a women's tower, and then there was a shared lobby. And so I just sat in this lobby with these guys, and we traded chords and showed each other our ideas, and everyone was trying to write their first songs and that sort of thing. And it just was most of them have been playing longer than I did. They got the earlier start, so I was just learning a ton from them. But just kind of right out of the gate, I'm like, I'm gonna make a song, and then I want a band. So okay, band means others. So then you're pulling people in. You're starting to play that connect the dots game. You're having to communicate your ideas to somebody else, and a lot of those leadership things start to grow out of that.
Yeah.
Did you come, like you said, you were in school in California. What made you come back to Phoenix? Like, where did that growth path come from?
Oh gosh, that's a long road.
Yeah.
So, yeah, college, Southern California, there for the 5 years of my 4-year college degree. And then
It's better than 6 or 7.
Yeah,
You finished. That's good.
right. Met my wife there. We were there for 13 years. And then we moved to Hawaii, and we were there for 17 years. And then we moved over to Phoenix about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So there was a lot of things that happened in between sort of the origin story and moving on.
And was it because this school opened just a couple years ago?
Well, the teen centers, there's 3 in the Valley, the Rock Teen Centers. So Alice Cooper Solid Rock Teen Centers runs 3 different ones.
Okay.
So there's one in North Phoenix that's been there for about 15 years. Mm-hmm. There's another one in Mesa that's been there for about 5. And then we just opened one in Goodyear about 15 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the newest one.
Okay.
And it's been really fun.
Well, I like what you said about teaching your students to just flap.
Right.
Because I think there's this expectation, whether it's social media or just being around people, that you're supposed to just succeed at the first time. And as being a musician, it is so hard to get one song, whether it's 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes, whatever it is, to be perfect for 3.5 to 5 minutes is almost impossible. And I mean, I'm going to have a note wrong or whatever. Maybe it's not as noticeable.
Right.
So I think in a musician's mind, we're striving for perfection, but knowing we'll never hardly reach it.
Right.
And yet I don't feel that same way in the workplace. Like I feel I'm supposed to execute that. I'm supposed to achieve, and maybe there'll be a conversation. And maybe that's not real. Maybe that's just a mindset I'm not carrying over. So I just think it's so fascinating that you're teaching them to fail early and fail now. Like, so can you unpack that just a little bit more?
Yeah. I think that, I've been in worship teams, leading worship teams, coaching bands, like I've been through a lot of that. I've also been involved with like starting businesses. We owned a coffee shop. I had a music school that we kind of started from the ground up over in Hawaii. That was when kind of the entrepreneurial side of me really came out. And one of the things that I've learned is that it has to start in both of those situations. It has to start with the people. And as a leader, you have to sort of understand your team and like what their limitations are and what their gifts are and kind of what they can do. So like for worship, for picking worship teams, picking a worship set, I always want to know who my team is before I'm going to select the songs. Mm-hmm. And that's going to not only affect kind of which songs I select, but what key I'm going to put them in. Like maybe you've got a brand new keyboard player. Let's pitch this in C, right? Just because then you tell them just don't hit any black keys. For those non-musical
people, there's no black keys. It's
right. It's harder to mess up.
Very easy.
You don't want to like pick some sort of very confusing song. And so, we were kind of chatting about this a little bit before we started recording here, but just how many things you have to keep track of. Mm-hmm. And just the other thing you want to do is you want to be careful not to just have them parrot like something else that they've seen, because that team is going to come up with something that's unique to that team. And so if you make just perfectly reproducing something that's happened somewhere else at some other time with some other group of people, if you make that your goal, you're going to run into problems over and over again. But if you really take into account who you're working with, and your goal is almost more to develop them than it is to sort of nail some sort of perfect rendition of some song, then that's going to change the atmosphere. It's going to change the dynamic. It's going to change the way that they're feeling, their morale. And I would say just abandoning the idea that we're going to do this perfectly just from the get-go, and we're actually going to see what we come up with together as a group, is almost just like a better way to frame it. And I think that translates over to at least some business. I would exclude maybe sort of military, where it's just like, no, this is how we do it, and it needs to be that you've got a military background. But when it comes to sort of creative endeavors, entrepreneurial endeavors, and things like that, if you don't have the development of your people as part of sort of the DNA of what you're doing, it's the wheels will fall off the cart eventually.
Yeah.
Because eventually there's going to be, hopefully, a baton pass to the next generation. And if all they're being asked to do is maintain something that the OG crew put together or reproduce something identical to what that one did, then now they've gone from being people you're developing to just sort of cogs in a wheel, and everything sort of falls apart. So circling back to your original question, I think just mistakes are not just part of it. It's like what I tell my kids is, the first mistake is just learning. The second identical mistake. Now that's a choice, right? So we're always trying to grow. Like let's make new mistakes so that we can grow. Mistakes are just the way that we grow.
That's really good stuff. I'm actually going to ask you to follow up. Do you have the same mindset in military? To his point, like maybe you don't get the same, you don't get to pick your team maybe.
Yeah, but I was always like, I don't think you don't get to pick your team always. You do get to pick some players and you can put them on. But I think something that I always thought of was like, you always want to pick the best people, right? But in combat or in life, the best people are not always there. What if the head guy gets taken out? I always wanted to train my replacement. I always wanted to give opportunity to people, because when you, in a training environment, when life isn't on the line and it's more about growing people, I want everybody to have an opportunity to see if they can do it. Because I think what also the flapping does is like my kid, it was, I'll give an analogy. They were running sprints at football, and he's going to be so mad at I say this, but he was so upset because everybody beat him. And I'm like, all right, well, you never run sprints. I always try to get you out here to run sprints. You never do. What makes you think you're going to be better at anybody else than running sprints? And he's like, in that mindset, the kids nowadays, they think they have to be good, because you said the social media thing too, like they have to be really good at everything because someone's taping it. And I'm the opposite. No, if you're not going to try, you're not going to be good. And so I almost think the flapping gives a little bit, like I guarantee you probably have people that are overconfident. In the military, you have people that are overconfident. I know how to do this. I know how to do land nav. Okay. I remember talking to an LT who was telling me how good he was at land nav. I'm like, oh, so when do you do land nav? He's like, oh, I do it during the day, get up in the morning, eat breakfast, and I go on a land nav. Oh, you do it when the sun's up. Good for you. Have you ever done it when it's dark? Well, why would I do it when it's dark? I'm like, because that's when we do stuff in the military. We go out at night and do it. And so people get overly confident, and that's bad. So I want to help bring them back to life. I might throw them out in front of everybody, make them the team leader, and go, okay, lead the team. And then they fail. Well, that's going to suck for them personally. So I got to help them out. Like their confidence now is shot. Everybody's going to know that. And then there's the other piece is I want them always ready when I'm not there. Right. I'm not always going to be there. So how you you can't always play C, because tomorrow, what happens next Sunday when our best pianist isn't there and I need you to fill in and we're playing a wicked set. Right. So I need you on borderline, like where I can't make you fail too much, but I need you to grow so you're ready to step up when the team needs you. So,
well, I mean, I think, when I'm looking at who do I want to emulate as a leader, the answer for me is Jesus Christ. Yes. Right. So, easily the most qualified individual to ever walk the face of the earth. But what's his first move, right? He goes and gathers up 12 knuckleheads. And it's like, I'm going to hang out with you for 3 years, and then I'm going to peace out, and I'm going to have you guys do it. He's like delegating from day one and empowering and growing. And they're tripping all over themselves. They're going out like they come back and like they fell down. They can't. He could have prevented every single one of those things, but his desire was to grow this group of people and teach them then to do the same and go and make disciples. And that's the way that it's scaled, to what it is today, is just because from day one, Jesus did not need any help. He doesn't need my help today any more than he needed their help then. If something's going well in my ministry, that's because Jesus is letting me ride shotgun on something that he's doing. It's kind of, to me, it's like the equivalent of like, okay, I would go to IKEA and I buy a piece of furniture and then I call my 11-year-old and be like, hey buddy, come on, we're going to build this furniture. He is not going to help. Like, he's going to drop things all over the place. He's, actually he's pretty good. So he's pretty good. But what I'm getting at is like, the reason why he's there is because I want to spend time with him and I want to include him. And clearly Christ wanted to include this group of people. He didn't need any of them. Right. He just wanted to include them. So then, okay, so how does that now translate to what we're talking about today, leadership? So like, for me, just one of my priorities in leadership is like, I want to pull together a team of either, employees, volunteers, but each one of them, I want to see them growing, not just to the place where they can do it, but now they can show somebody else how to do it too. That's what I'm after.
It's the Jack Welch. I think it's the GE. It's leadership is all about growing. Or before you become a leader, it's all about growing yourself. Once you become a leader, it's all about growing others.
Right.
And so in the military, I would even say this: like, it gets to a point where you grow up through the ranks, and it's all about technical expertise, being the best at what you do, and then you get to tech master. And now it's about growing teams. And so it was always my biggest lesson was finding those leaders that it wasn't them out front doing everything. It's the ones growing their team to be better, because that was the best part. I always use this example of like Nick Saban. If you played for Alabama and you were the starting cornerback and the offensive tackle got hurt, and the Nick Saban turned to the cornerback and goes, "All right, man, all the tackles are out. I need you to go play offensive tackle."
Right.
If you know football, cornerbacks are usually the smallest guys on the team. Sorry if there's any cornerbacks watching. And offensive tackles are the biggest. But you know that if he asked that cornerback, what would that cornerback do? Yes, sir, I'm in the game. Sure. Because they practice so hard, they're so confident that the game's easy, right? They'll go in and do it. I wonder in your team, are you training your team that they're so confident no matter what you need, they're willing to do it?
Right.
Well, I think it's practicing failure.
Yeah,
You even
exactly.
say to your kid,
Yeah.
When have you been doing the sprints? The guy, you're
Yes.
practicing.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're actually rehearsing failure in a weird way. So when you do music every week, we basically get 5 songs to fail and to get back up and do it again for another service or another week. So it's almost a practice of failure and just pushing through and having a completely different mindset. I asked somebody recently, why do we drive around the parking lot? Why do you pick certain spots? I'm just so confused. And they said, well, I want to get it right, and I have to get the angle. So I'd rather get it right and drive and circle than just try. I'm like, well, why don't you just try, though? And they're like, well, I don't like to fail the first time. And I'm like, I'm so used to failing.
We keep using this word failure, right?
Yeah,
and I would say maybe we need to rethink kind of what we're calling failure.
True.
Because if the goal is to grow people, right? And if by going and messing up the song or the task helps them to grow, then we actually haven't failed, right? If the goal is to execute the song perfectly, okay, maybe so, right? But I think that kind of back to what I was saying before, most sort of ideas, businesses, things like that, they start with somebody has a vision, right? So there's some visionary, and that visionary begins then to sort of collect people and to and sometimes the vision, I think it's more malleable in those early stages, because as the people come in, it becomes this thing, and like, hey, this is working, we should do 2 of them, right? We should do 4 of them. This happens all the time. You see it in churches and businesses all the time, right? And you look at places like In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A. I mean, it's a well-oiled machine that works. But I think when it comes to my field and ministry, right, if we don't take a people-first approach, what'll eventually happen is that like I said, that generation 1, when they go to hand it off to generation 2, they're just saying, rubber stamp what we've already done. And I just haven't seen that work too many times. So what I'm advocating for is just that as groups are forming, as ideas are forming, from the get-go, the growth of people in that group is paramount. And that's like the DNA of that. Because if the DNA of that vision is to see people in the organization grow, then when the handoff happens, that you're no longer, if the vision they're trying to maintain is we keep growing people, right? And when we grow people, this might look different as we go along, but we're growing individuals, and it allows some latitude. We're no longer just trying to execute some sort of program. The people have taken the front seat. The program is secondary to the people and the growth. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
And it's funny. There's a couple things here. One, I would say, like, I think something that maybe helps people a lot of times is when you see your audience. So what I mean by that is, like, in music, all right, when you plan this whole thing and you're going to go do this, I think public speaking. I always have people like, how do you know how to public speak? Like, how do you do this? And I'm like, well, I failed a lot. I had to get up there and practice. I had to get up there and do it. But I got to a point where I knew my material so good that I could look at the crowd and I could pick out when it was boring. Or I could see people, oh, this isn't working, I got to change. Or I need to like get engaged with the audience because they're not. I read the crowd. And I think also there was times where I thought I didn't do a good job and people were like, dude, you did awesome. And I'm like, oh, I think it sucked. And like my perception was so hard on myself to make. The crowd doesn't know that. They got with it. In music, I bet it's probably the same thing. Like you're so hard. Oh, I hit that key wrong or did this. And I'm like, man, that was the best song I've ever heard. And somebody that's really good at music, like, did you hear what they did? And then like the second part of the song, I'm like, no, man, I was just like, I loved it. So we're harder on ourselves. And then something you said I think is very fascinating about leadership is, do you give people the confidence to go fail? Right. Like they're going to be better because they have you in their corner. Right. So who is the person in their corner that's giving them that, like, I'm going to go be great, or I'm going to work hard because my dad's scary. I don't want to go back there and tell my dad I wasn't better at sprints. So there's two kind of like maybe leaders out there. There's the one that's nourishing, that's going to give you confidence. There's the hard one. Doesn't matter which one you are. Are you the leader that's in someone's corner? Right. Do they have you in their corner so they're willing to go out there and have that confidence? Because you're right about failure. It's probably a tough word to say. Like, I don't want people to fail. I don't want them to learn from failure. Right. I'd rather people go through life and never fail once. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there and not be scared of that.
Yeah, because that's the confidence to try.
And it's the confidence to just get better every time. Like, and I think there's something about a team or a teaching, I don't know, like a group that they're willing to, they don't care who messes up. They're willing to be a team together. So it's like you're more upset letting them down than you are letting the audience or the people that you don't know down. And so that's the teams that really, they have the coach in the corner that helps them. And then they have that mindset of, I want to do great because you are here. Yeah. I want to do great because of you. And then when I mess up, I'm harder on myself and I want to get better. So like you said earlier, that I have that mistake, but it's not a second mistake at the same time. I'm going to maybe mess up something different, but I'm never going to make that mistake again because I think
I think maybe we both even, or all of us even just take a second and tell the audience, I know I feel I'm much harder on myself than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so is there tips that you've done? I'm guessing that you both are the same way, that maybe you're harder on yourself than other. Like, so how do we push through that mentality of like allowing ourselves to have that room? So maybe we're on the best team when we have a great leader and that leader's allowing us. Right. Maybe the struggle's with us.
I like you to talk about it because I think something that maybe helps me in those settings is my faith. Like I'm not perfect. So when I make mistakes, I don't think about it. But could you talk about maybe that, like your faith? Does that help?
Yeah. Kind of what I was saying before is, Jesus choosing his disciples or the analogy I made with the 10-year-old helping me put together furniture. When you realize that you're the 10-year-old and that God is running things and that you're just getting to be part of it because he likes you, if you can live from that I think makes a huge, huge difference in the way that you respond when things don't go well, right? I had a mentor of mine, a pastor, as I was kind of just getting started with the worship leading, things would go wrong. We'd had some pretty massive train wrecks. And, there's pastors out there that would be like, hey, we need to get rid of this guy. But this was not this guy's style. And he came, he said, hey, I was like, wow, that was rough. He's like, yeah, it was rough. And he's like, but hey, don't worry about it because what we are able to come up with in our little finite ways compared to like what's going on and having compared to like everyone's a winner, it's crayon drawings stuck to the God's fridge. So just your best is not even close. So just knowing that is, I think there's a peace that comes from that. Yeah. And just knowing that like things might go well. If they do, you can give glory to God. If they don't go well, that's okay because God's not judging us on that. And I think at the core of all of that is an identity thing, right? Right. Because one of the things that you'll see, Jesus did not have an identity crisis, right? I was a campus pastor at church for a little bit, and I got to preach the Sunday after Christmas, right? So I was like, well, what happened next in the story? Well, next in the story is King Herod finds out that there's a potential threat to his position as king in the form of this little baby. And so his next move is to have all like the male children killed. Like, and, you know, if you do a deep dive into who this guy Herod was, right, he was basically kind of a Nepo baby and was very insecure about his spot, right? And then we compare that to, as we already talked about, Jesus, most qualified guy. But his deal is, like I said, get a band of knuckleheads and turn them loose, right? Teach them and train, release.
I'm so
train,
still in
trust,
that.
release.
I need a band of knuckleheads. Like, that's what I need.
Exactly. And we're those current knuckleheads, right? Yeah. And so just realizing you're just one of the knuckleheads. But Herod, you know, I think we can see in him, his identity was totally wrapped up in his position and his skills and things, or lack thereof, and he was deeply insecure. And so when something came along like that, it was a total threat, whereas Jesus did not have any of those hang-ups, right? And he was very secure. So what's the lesson for us? If I am like all about sort of my performance and never making a mistake on my end, my team's going to pick up on that, and they're going to adopt that as well. But if I can be confident because of my faith that you know, I have value, the reason I have value is only because God has assigned it to me. And when the creator of the universe assigns something to you, there's nothing that can shake that confidence, right? There's no criticism or sort of outcome or lack of outcome that's going to shake like who you are as a person, and being able to live from that identity. I think that's the struggle for us all, you know, because it's easy for me to say that to you, and then I'm going to walk out of here and I'm going to freak out. Did I do okay on the podcast, right? And am I, you know, you know how that goes. I think a lot of us can identify with that. I think the test is like when another person shows. I remember there was this time as a young worship leader, right? I had kind of just sort of got my spot, right, and I was like one of the regular guys, and I was like kind of feeling good about it. And then, you know, here comes this younger guy. I was bald already. This guy has hair, you know, just a great looking dude.
Those
great
guys.
Voice, you know, great, you know, just really cool. And he's a worship leader too. I never heard him play, and I'm just like, and my just being honest, my instinct was like, oh man. Like this, you know, I felt threatened. I'm like, oh no, I didn't. It wasn't like, hey, I wonder if I can disciple this younger guy. I was like, I hope he's terrible, right? Turns out he did struggle a little bit with this rhythm, and I was like, phew, right? But I grew to the point where I was like, hey, actually, let me help you with that, right? Because over time, like the Lord did something in my heart where I no longer saw this guy as a threat to my position, because by the time that we got there, I wanted to see him succeed. And I had already begun to realize that what was more interesting and more fulfilling to me than being the guy is like helping somebody else be the guy and seeing them get up there and nail it. Like that was a more deeply fulfilling thing than me just kind of having a good Sunday. So, so that was something that the Lord's, and I think that that's still something that's going on in my life, is just remembering like, no, like I'm not, it's not about me. Like God has equipped me, but the reason why he's equipped me is to help others and to consider the needs of others above my own.
Yeah. I think there's a practical side of, if you're really hard on yourself or just even second guessing something, there's just the practical side of whether it's reminding yourself of that truth, whether if you're a person of faith, and it is, what does the Bible actually say about me? And if you're not, or even if you need to start somewhere else, it's, well, where else did you do good? You know I want to go to the one or two things I did wrong, but if I really go back and go, okay, just using again a Sunday, well, did the other 22 minutes of the service go great? Did the team feel comfortable? Like, so I have to just start reminding myself and telling myself, instead of beating myself up, I have to stop and say, okay, what did go well? How did the people feel? What are the different things? Kind of a little bit of both of what you're saying is there's some practicality of just, why don't you rehearse the good things instead of rehearsing the negative in your mind, or rehearsing scripture instead of the negative things that you're hearing.
It's no, it gets me. So go the mistake thing. I think sometimes what happens with the mistake thing is that you're focusing on the past. You've made the mistake, and now you're focusing on the past, and guess what? You make another mistake. And so how do you move on from it? And I used to tell people, hey, I want to give first place effort, but I'm not going to beat myself when I didn't come in first.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of times when people lose or make a mistake, it's they didn't give everything they had. If you give everything you have, you're not worried about that. It's for your team. You're not worried about, like, did I let someone down? And you're thinking in your head, like, what could I have done better?
It's even that comparison. He was just saying, like, he was comparing himself to somebody else.
Yeah, but that's
You're comparing yourself to somebody else. I think that is such a trap.
Yeah, and I
that
think
we convince we're less than because
love
we're
it.
comparing. We don't need to compare.
Well, Jesus
You
the
don't
same
need to
way.
compare.
Like the disciples compared themselves to each other, right? Like who's the greatest? Who does he love the most? Like, why does Peter get everything? You know, this or Daniel, like, you know,
around the world.
like it. And I think, but every one of them needed a growth, something. They were needing that, and so the same on your team. Like, it's always fascinated to me, like, you know, in leadership, sometimes you put the most effort in the knuckleheads.
Right.
But the really great people on your team need just as much help. They're not perfect. And so I remember as a team, like, I never got feedback. I never got, my leader never talked to me. And I'm like, am I doing all right? Oh, Jay, you're good. You're going to figure it out.
Right.
And so you, as a team, you, as a leader, sometimes you have to be really careful. Like, hey, don't focus on the mistakes. Start out your message with, hey, man, you know how much greatness we did? Like, you always think like an AAR. When we do AARs, what do we do in an AAR? The first thing we do is we talk about all the things we messed up in the meeting.
AAR is.
After action review. Sorry.
I feel like I've asked you
God,
that like 6 months ago.
We're gonna play these podcasts back. No, but no, like you think after a music or after a concert, or after, we always want to bring everybody. Okay, let's talk about what we did, and we'll always go back to. Now, I'm really big in the pilot world. You know, pilots will go in and they'll go into their meeting or their after flight brief, and they'll be hard on each other. What could we do better? We're gonna make these things better. Right. But sometimes you got to be like, dude, here's where we killed it. Yeah. This is where we're the best at what we do. Right. And then let's go out and get better at these things, because the mistakes sometimes they're accidents. They're not, maybe they're not going to happen again.
Nobody goes out to like mess up the song.
No,
Nobody
and so I think we like, what did we do really good? And we're going to go do that again and get better at that. And so this is something I have for you. And I'm thinking while we're talking, but there is times where you look at people and I'll say music. So let's take you from there, and you get someone, you're like, man, this is a solo act. Right. They're the 5-tool athlete. They can play the guitar, they can sing, they can write. They're like, dude, you're over here. You're Taylor Swift. And then you got people like me who, dude, you're more of a group setting. You need like 3 or 4 people. Like, you need to be in like a team. You need, this is your, I have to tell the sound man, you're not a solo act. But as like, hey, I go and I have this aspirations. I'm going to be Taylor. I'm going to be the lead singer. Man, you might be a backup singer. You might be part of a group. And how do you like talk about that? Because you're in talent management. So when do you take that talent and go, man, I think you'd be really good in a group? Right. Or is it, hey, dude, or you might need to be like someone's in a group and go, hey, I think you'd be really good as a solo act. So I'll let you take that.
It's tough, you know, because we're pushing back against a culture that sort of celebrates talent and celebrates abilities and power rather than growth.
Just remember, I grew up in NSYNC, so I'm all about the boy band. No, I'm just kidding.
If we elevate growth over sort of results, I think that changes the whole culture. Yeah. Right. And then it takes the edge off of telling somebody, hey, I think that you're going to be better in this position. Right. Now, you can't always control that. It's a tough conversation to have sometimes, because sometimes it's just like, no, this is not.
Well, you have parents too. Probably you have what they want for them too.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
That'll be number 2 podcast.
That's a different combo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to bring me back?
American Idol was not there when your mom.
Thousands of kids at this point.
Yeah, when your mom gave you a guitar, she did not think you were going to be. Oh no, but they had what was the Sunday thing? With the Sunday show. Remember they had what was the show that always came on TV, and it was like they had the different acts, and it was like Spotlight, or it was like, like America's Spotlight with Star Search. Remember that? Like it would come on and everybody thought they were going to be like, Angela. Man, we are really not that old, but we are. Right. But sorry, go.
I think finding ways to give honest feedback is important. But I think before you can deliver sometimes the hard truth, you do have to have fostered an environment where nobody has mistaken talent for value or ability for value, right? And I think that's where we get in trouble. You know, our modern world, I think, has conflated, power with value, right? Talent with value. Those are not the same. If you think about like a mother and child, I mean, you've heard I think the Chinese proverbs, like a tiger is chasing a mother and her infant child through the forest, right? And it's gonna catch up. What's the right thing for the mother to do? Well, obviously it's throw the baby to the tiger because she can get away and go make another baby. What's she gonna do though, right? She's not gonna do it. She's gonna turn around and fight the tiger. They're both probably gonna die. But that infant has no agency whatsoever in that deal. The mother has all the agency, but the infant has all the value, right? And so and to the point where the mother will sacrifice herself to try to save the child, right? And you see that in our relationships especially with parents and children all the time. Is a parent is going to fall on the grenade every time to save their child, right? But that child doesn't get to call any of the shots. They don't get to decide where we're going to dinner, right? And so when we get those two things mixed up, chaos ensues, bad things ensue. But when we realize as leaders, our job is we're there to provide the leadership through our decision making, but it is for the sake of our team, and we serve our teams, and they're the ones with the value. We need to grow them up and realize we're there to foster good things in them so that they can turn around and foster them in somebody else. Otherwise, we're just saying, I have a vision. You're a cog in my wheel. Help me achieve my vision, cog, right? And you're going to get all kinds of turnover. People are going to leave your band if they don't feel heard. They don't, across the board, you're just going to see that over and over again. I think in coaching, people are going to bug out. They're like, I don't want to be a cog in a wheel. I want to be recognized as somebody with value.
But you said something a little while ago. You were talking about we were talking about mistakes, and you're not about like getting rid of someone. It's like we're going to figure the production, like when you're thinking of like. And I do think there is a point, like as a leader, there is good in people. Like there is something they're doing very well, or they can do, and you have to hone in on that. Now, you also have to call the baby ugly and like, hey, we're going to fix this. I think that may be the military side. We're gonna do this a little bit more. But
you're bringing back a lot of memories from my childhood.
I'm sorry, but. And my wife has to tell me sometimes because I can be very hard on my kids, and she'll be like, "Hey, you got to build them up too." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's tomorrow." No, but no, but I think
build them up.
And it's funny. Yes. I do think there is something that you got to find the good in people, and you got to make sure they know they have good in them. But I think what happens more is if they're not helping if they're impacting other people. That's now a different discussion. That's where like you could lose the person on your team. You're gonna have our team. You're no longer part of this team because you're impacting other people. Right. And so there is a little fine line of like, I want to help you and I want to give you the values and I want to grow you. Right. But now you're on this other side of where this is where we're not going to stand for. Yeah.
Here's something kind of interesting. U2, the band, right? Early on, they famously chose Adam Clayton as their bass player because he looked cool. They didn't even know if he could play the bass or not.
Man, I've never
heard
had that
very well. Yeah. And Bono has described like their early sound as like the sound of four guys trying to play together who couldn't play very well. Right? That was the way their sound formed. But what they did have was friendship and cohesion. They're still the same four guys, and a commitment to one another. And so their sound was actually shaped by like kind of their limitations, which is ironic because now that sound is like, I think you could easily make the case that like all modern worship throughout churches is like very, very much influenced by like U2. Yeah. And so I think that one of the answers to what you guys are asking about, you're talking about the soloist versus like the background singer is like, well, maybe what needs to happen is you need to adjust the target to accommodate the people that are involved, because if we're just trying to grow people, and that's going to give you a different outcome. But if that outcome, if you are people focused first, then you're going to say, okay, we're going to just sort of rearrange this song where it works for this person, right? And so I'm pretty sure that's the way Metallica's sound was formed as well, because Lars is famously, kind of a unique drummer. We'll say it like that, right? He's sometimes he does some pretty crazy stuff, and the fills are just sort of not where you would think a fill would go. And the question, there's a big debate: is he some sort of genius, or is he a guy who's sort of not that great at the drums, who's surrounded by 3 other geniuses, right? But somehow their sound comes together, and what makes them sound like Metallica is those guys sort of adjusting to kind of like his wacky choices on the drums and things like that. And if you're listening, I'm a Metallica fan, guys. Don't worry. Okay, sorry.
Thank you
Lars.
for answering that question.
So I think that I would prefer, as a leader, I would prefer a team of perhaps less talented people who were reliable, who genuinely liked each other, and who were willing to sort of work through conflict together. I'll take that team over a team of the most talented people possible, whether it's in a band or in business. The highest, if you've got a group of people, if even one of them is just like out for me, and they're just like, okay, maybe you can shred on the guitar, but you're just going to take a solo over the top of everybody else because you're not even listening to what's going on, that band's going to suck, right? If you've got a group of, let's say, mid-tier musicians, but they are absolutely listening to each other and they're paying attention, that's going to go a lot better. Same thing, I believe, with in just other leadership settings. It's just a group of people who communicate and care about each other and listen to each other and have that team cohesion is going to always yield a better result. If we are after a very specific outcome and it needs to look exactly like this, it might not work out, right? But if our vision can accommodate different, if our vision, like I said before, is sort of in the DNA to grow people, and that may sort of change what we're doing, but if the growth is happening, then we are succeeding, and you maintain that malleability there. I don't know. I think that's a better way.
Oh, it's 100%. This is a famous, or not famous, I don't want to give him all the fame, but Simon Sinek has a great video where in one of his books, and he's talking about the Navy SEALs. And he went to study the Navy SEALs, and they have like, when they're, and he's like, hey, how do you pick the guys for the SEAL team? Like, how do you do this? And they were talking about the best performers. Like, they're like, if you look at a chart, and the best performers are here, and then you have, and it's like high performance, high trust, low performance, high trust, low trust, low performance, low trust, or high trust, low performance, whatever it is, the boxes. And it's like you get these, you don't actually want these guys. What you want is the guys that are high trust. They could be a little low performance. Maybe they're not the best, but they're good enough. But everybody trusts them, and they become the best because what you just said, the team is everybody's working together. They fill in the blanks. They help each other out. They can read, but you take one of those people out and you bring in that high performer. It's the boat team, when you bring in, change the boat team leaders, now all of a sudden the boat team sucks. It's because they're now working against each other. They're not working to help each other. And the team can always perform so much better when everybody's doing it together. And it's that like high trust. Can you trust your teammates? Are they out for themselves or for the team?
It went back to the value thing. Like that baby couldn't bring the value. But sometimes we talk about values a lot on our podcast, like just what are your values? But you're talking about value, the cost of something, what we're putting weight into. And I think that the top, the gold star person always shines, right? The Instagram star always shines. And we inadvertently just put value on who's the top or the most. And yet we don't take the time to say, you know what? Thank you that I never have to talk to you. I want to celebrate the fact that I never had to come to Jason and then that last year and ask him to do it. Like, let's celebrate that just as much as the person that just pushed this project across the line, even though we know that was a team of 5. The leader always gets it. And so I just reframing that and kind of what are you celebrating? So I'm not very good at celebrating anyways, but we need to be celebrating the right things when you do celebrate, and it shouldn't just be the winner.
And I think also celebrating when leaders take the time to do that. Like, so in leadership, it's the hardest thing to do is give up your time for other people because you're so busy, you have so much going on, you're dynamic, you got everything. But those people need you. And so are you, because time is the most valuable thing we have. Are you willing to give up your time to train, to help someone? I would even go back to like maybe, I don't know if you had a question, but you said something else that when you're looking at the organization and you're thinking of like faith and everything is culture. You have to establish that to have people like you just said, that you value people that you know what? You do a great job every day. Thank you for being here. Sunday volunteers. man, thank you for always being here every Sunday. I don't have to worry about you not showing up. You know, those things are so valuable to the team. That's where culture is established.
Well, it's that what gets celebrated is
Oh,
what
yeah.
gets repeated,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And so
yeah.
if you're not celebrating the everyday win, the everyday person,
The
and you're only,
routines.
yes,
Yes,
then you
yeah.
are inadvertently training them to only celebrate rock
Yeah.
stars. And so
Yeah.
you got to be careful as leaders. What are we celebrating? Because we are too busy.
Yeah.
Maybe we only have time to come celebrate once a quarter, so we celebrate the biggest, loudest win instead of the, no, today we're going to talk about the everyday wins and the fact that there hasn't been any complaint, whatever it is.
I would
in your
even put in
industry.
there celebrating attempts, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Just because, hey, good job. It didn't work out, but
Yeah.
good job for trying, right? Because if we as leaders, you know, if somebody on our team takes a big swing and it goes wrong, and we're like, what were you thinking? And, you know, call them out, you know, then what's the likelihood that anybody else in that room
somebody's watching.
is going to
Zero.
try? So what you've essentially done is you have murdered innovation.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
because people will not want to try to innovate
Right.
anymore if they see that scolding. You know, this comes to our relationships when
Right.
somebody comes, you know, with in confrontation, right? And there's friction or something like that. You know, when a person comes to us and they have a beef with us or something, you know, if you freak out on that person, the likelihood that they're going to come to you again is very, very low.
Right.
This is something my wife and I have had to practice, you know, like just to maintain our relationship. We practice trying to hear the other person out and not having a big reaction if we just heard something we didn't like. Because if that happens, or when our kids come to us and they screw something up, you know, they're more likely to go hide the next time if we have some sort of big kerfuffle with them, right? So just we have to build those environments where people have room to grow. And so what that means is translation where they have room to try things that don't work out.
Yeah.
And we have to, you know, if you try the same thing over and over again, that's, you know, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is the definition of crazy, right?
Right.
So we don't want that necessarily, but we do want people to feel free to innovate, to try, to do something that hasn't been done before. And if they grow, then we grow, our organization.
Well, then what about like how do you give them wins? So you think of the band and you're talking about like you're trying to help them out and you're finding the right key and the right. Do you ever have like somebody that's just having a couple of those like, man, they're just not getting over the hump. They've messed up again. They've messed up again, and then you're like, man, I bet they could do really good at this song.
Right.
Do you find a way to give them a win? Like, because that's you do have to at some point get over the hill, or we're gonna have to we got to do something else. Because it's insanity if I keep trying to play guitar and I'm not good at it. Man, you might need to go to piano. Like, where do you find that way to like give them a win to help that confidence?
Yeah, I think just first of all, redefining win as did it go better than the last time you tried it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, like so. Really, we're only thing we're comparing you to. We're not comparing you to everybody else who took the stage tonight. We're comparing you to the last time you got up to try this. Did it go better? Right. If it did, that's a win. Yeah. So we redefine win.
Right.
Now, that doesn't necessarily translate to primetime Sunday morning, right? But I think that, you know, just remembering kind of like what the capabilities of people are and then getting them in the right seat on the bus. I think that's the kind of the key. Because if they're in the right seat on the bus, then they can experience a win every time, even if it doesn't go to, you know, so like a certain standard that must be met in order for it to sort of be like, we'll call it, you know, Sunday morning ready. So I'm not advocating for everybody, it's a free-for-all every Sunday, or it's a free-for-all in every organization. But I need to identify, where is this person now? How can I move them? How can I move them just along the continuum, you know, moving towards capability, moving towards deployability? How can I move them towards that? And just really celebrating every time they do it a little bit better than the time before. And then encouraging them to keep trying. And I think I've yet to meet somebody who can't at least proceed along that line.
I love that because like I look at your organization, and let's even say at Alice Q, you have multiple bands that play. Right. And so what happens in the military, and I think a lot of sports, is we always want to compare ourselves to our competition or our other teammate. In the military, I always want to compare myself to other staff sergeants. I'm like, you're not on the same team. And I used to say the same thing. I'm like, hey, what did the guy before, gal before you do with the team? Where is the team at right now? This is where we're at. How are you making it better? Don't compare yourself to that person over there. They're a different team. Everybody wants to compare themselves. They see the band that goes on before them and they're like, oh man, we got to perform. They did so great. They're different. Yeah. They had different notes, different everything. I hope it's notes. I just made that up, but I don't know. But they have different song to play. Right. I just think people like, hey, look at yourself. Where are you at? And have you done better than the last time? We are going in the right direction. Right. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Are we failing forward? Whatever. But we're going in the right direction. I love these. You brought that. You said that.
Yeah. This has been such a good conversation. As we wind this down, we're going to give you a final question. As you think about the leaders listening today, what final thoughts or piece of wisdoms would you want to leave? Or what kind of legacy are you hoping you'll be remembered by? Either one works.
Well, I think legacy-wise, I would love it if like I'm remembered as like the guy who like believed in the kid before they believed in themselves. Like the guy who believed in my team member before they believed in themselves, and the guy who got them connected with a community of people. Because I think that community is, I mean, we haven't talked a lot about community, but I just think that it's such a key element of growth, being in community with other people, and that's one of the things that at the Rock we are able to provide kids. The music was sort of my the way that I found my tribe, and so having a tribe of people to sort of cheer you on, to be a part of something greater than yourself. When it's this kind of individual thing, it doesn't. When Jesus was asked, "What's the greatest commandment?" He answered the guy with 2 things. He said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Well, they didn't ask him for 2 things, but he said 2. And I believe the reason why he said 2 is because both of those things are absolutely critical. It's like the X and Y axis. Like you can't just love God but not care about others. But if you try to love others without a connection to God, you're not going to do it well. Right? So just being the guy that, the legacy I hope to leave is just, I'm the guy that helped people find community with other people and a connection with their creator, and just trying to be like that. I would say kind of, if I have one thing for business leaders, I would say try to foster an environment where people can grow. Prioritize the growth of the individual within, like find good people, but then find ways to grow them, and keep that out in front of just some sort of kind of organizational goal, or make that the organizational goal, is to grow people. Because I do believe that as you're growing people, if they truly grow, your organization will grow. But if you try to do it in reverse, that's when you're going to get you're going to have loyalty problems, you're going to have turnover, you're going to lose people, and you're going to use and lose people. But if you make people and the development of them kind of your main goal, that's going to scale beautifully, and you're going to have the retention that you're looking for, and I think you'll have the outcomes that you're looking for as well.
Cool. That was great.
Well, this has been a fun time on the briefing room. We hope that you found some of this valuable and this conversation entertaining at the very least, but I found it very engaging. Thank you, Jeremy, for coming on. We really appreciated your time. Yeah, this was really fun.
Yeah, let's go, and go check out Alice Cooper's Rock Teen Center. Let's go. They're doing great things there.
Take a tour, right?
Yeah, go look at look them up. Donate if you want to, and I know the West Valley Mavericks. We donate to them, and they're doing great things for our community. You talked about communities, so if you want to help out, listen to the podcast, and then go see the Rock Center and what these teens are doing out there.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you hear it, I want to give you a tour of the Teen Center.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. We're there Monday through Friday, 2 to 7:30 p.m.
So click subscribe, follow us first and third Tuesdays of the month.
Have a good one.